Ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Deck Chicago, one of the couple 2 or 3 best podcasts around. So grab yourself a nice cold one and a bowl of sausage, park your keister in your French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky, Sports Deck Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago.
Our coaches did a tremendous job preparing our guys this week, and our guys did a tremendous job of preparing.
Are you serious? Is that what came out of your mouth, Mark Trestman? My brain is literally melting right now. I'm so furious. This is Sean, and this is Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago. Normally, we get you an episode right after the game after the game on Sundays or Mondays, but this week I just had to take some time and just really process what I saw, because it was absolutely soul-crushing and infuriating on so many levels. This team is bad. It's not for lack of talent. There's a lot of talent on this team, regardless of what Gary might say. There's a lot of talent on this team. This is just a poorly coached team. That all comes back to the coaching staff. So when I hear Mark Trestman come out in a game where Aaron Rodgers threw for 315 yards and 6 touchdowns in the first half of a game, and to say the coaches were well prepared and planning for this game, that is just complete and utter horse crap. That is just flat out either lying or stupidity. I don't know if it's one or the other or a combination of both. This team is just miserable. I want to give you some stats to kind of put it into perspective. So I made some notes for myself. The combined score of the last 3 Chicago Bears games at halftime, so if you took the halftime scores of the last 3 games and combined them, the Bears would be losing 94-7. 94-7. That just means that they are getting blown out at halftime already. The last team, so last week the Bears gave up over 50 points to the not last week, they were on a bye. The week before, they gave up over 50 points to the New England Patriots. This week, they gave up over 50 points to the Green Bay Packers. The last team to allow 2 consecutive games of over 50 points, I'm not even crapping you, the last time that happened was in 1923, the Rochester Jeffersons. You didn't even know that was a team. Nobody knew that was a team. I've been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame several times. I don't remember seeing anything about Rochester Jeffersons. I can't even point out Rochester on a map. And I'm a really smart guy. 1923, the Rochester Jeffersons gave up back-to-back 50-point games, and the Chicago Bears did it. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers had 315 yards and 6 touchdowns in the first half. And Mark Trestman says, we are not a good football team right now.
We're not good enough right now.
No crap. I don't even know where to start on this. They failed at every single phase of the game. Every single phase. So you can't, there's going to be a lot of Jay Cutler haters that are all lynching Jay Cutler. Fine. That's fine to be mad at Jay Cutler. That's all fine and dandy. You can't put this all on Jay Cutler. You can't put this all on anybody. This was a complete team effort. And you've got talent on this team. And where I see it as just a complete and utter failure is a guy like Julius Peppers hasn't been able to do anything under Mark Trestman. So they get rid of Julius Peppers, and he goes to the Green Bay Packers, and he's playing fine. You can say, well, he's got a guy like Clay Matthews on the other side that's easing him up, but I don't think that's it. I think this coaching staff takes talent and dumbs them down. I mean, the equivalent of dumbing down for talent. They take away people's talent and make them play like non-talented people. That's just miserable. So let's just start with the defense, because they couldn't even slow down Aaron Rodgers. I want to talk about a play that just epitomizes what is wrong with this defense and with Mel Tucker. So there was the play that Jordy Nelson scored on a 73-yard pass on, I can't remember if it was a 3rd and long or a 4th and long, but they had long. They got a 73-yard touchdown to pass to Jordy Nelson. So watching the play over again, you have the cornerback that was covering Jordy Nelson from the line of scrimmage was Tim Jennings. So Tim Jennings starts covering him, and then he clearly stops. Then you see the safety. There's a single high safety, and he's not going over to him. He's across the middle of the field covering another receiver, but that shot was too far for me to be able to see who exactly it was. I'm like, where did the coverage go wrong? And I said to myself, I don't know if we'll ever be able to actually pinpoint who made the mistake. But then I just heard the audio of it. I didn't see the video, but I heard it. I believe it was Jordy Nelson. And he said Tim Jennings was playing cover 2. The safety, which was Brock Vereen, he was playing single high. Those two don't mesh. If you don't know about football, those don't mesh. Is the cover 2 it's basically like a zone type defense. Is you're going to have the two safeties are going to play where they cover their portion of the field. But if you've only got a single high safety, you can't play cover 2. So there was a clear miscommunication between the two defensive players. And I don't know who blew the responsibility, but I'm going to guess Tim Jennings, because there was only actually a single high safety out there, and that was Brock Vereen. So there's only one safety out there. So the defensive backs for the Bears don't even recognize what each other is doing. There's no communication back there. I don't know if somebody didn't hear a signal change, or if whoever got the play call in from the sideline didn't relay it, or what happened, but they didn't know who was covering who. And what's even more atrocious and what came out is apparently Aaron Rodgers knows the play calling of the Chicago Bears defense. So he audibled to that play because he knew that they were out of position and that they had called wrong plays. And so Aaron Rodgers knew that there was going to be a blown play, and he sent Jordy Nelson to the spot where he knew there was going to be a blown coverage. I just want to play the Benny Hill music over the top of the Bears playing. It's so mind-numbing. It's just the team had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And granted, I didn't expect them to beat the Packers. Going into Green Bay is clearly a better team. They have strengths where the Bears have weaknesses. I didn't expect them to beat Green Bay. I did expect them to play competitively. They had 2 weeks to realize what the game plan was, what they needed to do, and how to stop the Green Bay Packer offense. They saw a blueprint of it since they played last time. They saw the Lions, what they did to the Packers. The Lions were able to contain them all and win the game. They just stymied the Packer offense. But what do the Bears do? They can't even call their own plays right. The quarterback of the opposing team knows their offensive play calls better than any of the players on the field. How does that happen? You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers is coached better than the Chicago Bears. Mike McCarthy has got to be laughing to himself, thinking how much of a better coach he is than Mark Trestman. And it's absolutely true. I've wanted to defend Mark Trestman so badly because I think he's probably a really nice guy, and I think he's got X and O's football smarts, but he cannot call these plays. He can't be a play caller. He's not a motivator of men. These guys don't take him seriously. And from last year to this year, I don't know what happened to the offense, but it's just completely sputtering. You have You have wide receivers that aren't on the same page as the quarterback. So they don't know what routes they're supposed to run, and they're not communicating with each other. You've got a freak of nature tight end who refuses to come back for the ball or forgets what plays he is. So he's caused himself several interceptions. And the interception last night, the one that was going to be to Martellus Bennett, is I put the blame 50% on Jay Cutler and 50% on Martellus Bennett. The 50% on Jay Cutler is because Jay Cutler, when he's got that pass, he needs to flat out fire it. You can't, if he's going to lob it, he's got to lob it high and deep. So if it's going to be not caught by his man, it's going to be going out of bounds. So if he's going to lob it, he's got to lob it deep and arching so it goes over the top of him, or he's got to rifle it in. And if there's anything you could say about Jay Cutler, is he's got an absolute cannon for an arm. So why not step into it and just launch that ball into Martellus Bennett's hands? You would have got that completion and you would have had a nice first down. Instead, Jay Cutler throws it so gingerly. And this is where Martellus Bennett made the mistakes. Is Martellus Bennett, he's trying to make some huge play rather than just catch the ball. And fundamentally, that's what you need to do as a receiver, is you catch the ball. You catch the ball before you do anything, because you can't do anything until you catch the ball. Catch the ball first. They tell you that from Pee Wee football all the way through. Catch the ball. Look the ball into your hands. When you see you've got a cornerback who's closing quickly, is use your big body. Look what Gronkowski did last week against Ryan Mundy. Ryan Mundy had very good coverage a lot of times on Rob Gronkowski. He was basically draped over his back. But the thing is, Tom Brady's a very accurate passer, and Rob Gronkowski uses his big body. So there was absolutely Ryan Mundy could do unless he had go-go gadget arms, or was Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man or somebody, and he could stretch his arm to grow 3 feet longer to reach out. But he was all over Rob Gronkowski, stuck his arm out, and Rob Gronkowski was able to use his body to shield the defender and give a target to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady hit that target with perfect accuracy. What does Jay Cutler do? Doesn't hit his pass with perfect accuracy, doesn't put the oomph on it, and you have Martellus Bennett, who's just he's not coming back for the ball. He's not using his body to shield it. He has a much smaller defender, and he's not using it to his advantage. And then you've got Matt Forte. They ran the ball like crazy on the Green Bay Packers the last game, and that was both a blessing and a curse. Is you kept running the ball and you were doing things well, but when it came down to the end of the game, when you needed to run the ball to make those yards, they knew what you were going to do, and they were able to stop you. They need to use Matt Forte, and they need to. They're not a team that can play smash mouth football. They're a team that can run the ball, but they need to be able to be smarter about it. You can't. They're not good enough to be transparent in their play calling. They can't know what you're going to do, and you line up and beat them. There's teams like Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks will line up on the 1 yard line. You know Marshawn Lynch is going to take that ball and smash it down your throat. Now the issue is everybody knows what that play is going to be, but are you going to man up and stop Marshawn Lynch from smashing it in your face and running into that end zone? That they can do that. The Bears can't. You know what the play the Bears are going to run, you're going to stop it, because you're not good enough to be able to impose your will on the other team. Part of that is this offense is too finesse, and part of it is just poor individual ability. Part of it's poor planning, and part of it's poor coaching and poor play calling. This is just a complete atrocious of a team, and I don't think Mark Trestman should keep his job. You've got offensive linemen that are lashing out and fighting with the other team, and granted, they've got to protect their quarterback no matter what. But the thing is protect your quarterback so he doesn't get hit. If you don't Tom Brady doesn't get beat up like that most of the time. You know why? Because his guys stop them from smashing Tom Brady. You can't be that guy that gets mad when Clay Matthews sacks your quarterback and then throws him to the ground and then come over and run and hit somebody. That's too late. You already didn't do your job. Stop them from sacking Jay Cutler. Let Jay Cutler get the ball clean. And Jay Cutler, let's all pile on. That's fine. Pile on Jay Cutler. He makes a lot of money. He's got big boy pants. Let him wear them. The guy is not buying into the offense. Part of it is because the offense is terrible. The play calling is unoriginal and predictable and just plain not good. And so he's not buying into the system, and he's falling back to these old habits, and he's been in the league for like 9 years now. He's not going to change. I really thought after last year that he was going to change and he was going to keep buying into the system and eventually break him of those bad habits, but he just falls right back into them. He gets a little nimble feet in the pocket, starts throwing off his back foot. He makes those across his body throws back across the field. He throws little lobs across the flat where they get intercepted. He doesn't hit targets accurately. He throws into double and triple coverage because that's the guy he wants to throw it to. You can't do that and win in the NFL. They can't cover everybody. If they do that with the receivers they have, then you're doing it wrong. If you are the Chicago Bears and they've got Martellus Bennett blanketed, Alshon Jeffrey blanketed, Brandon Marshall blanketed, and they've got Matt Forte covered, guess what? Your offense is not doing its job. Those guys are all too damn good to be able to be covered by the same number of guys that you're putting out there. 11 on 11, they should not be able to cover all of your options. And I am not an NFL coach. I am a student of the game. I watch a lot of film. I can diagram plays, and I guarantee that I could do better than what Mark Trestman is doing right now. And that's not saying that I'm good. That's saying that he's bad. I, as a well-informed fan, should not be able to call better plays and run a better offense than an NFL head coach, let alone the guy who's supposed to be an offensive guru. I should not be able to do that. I can't do that. I can't say the same thing for Mike McCarthy. And that's why Lovie Smith got fired, because I could call better plays and run a better offense than what was under Lovie's system. But at least Lovie had that defense going. You can say a lot of things about Lovie, and Lovie deserved to get fired. So if you're a fan that's saying, well, Lovie got fired after 10-6, and you're still saying that, you just need to shut up, because you're wrong too. As Lovie Smith had to go, you were not going to win the Super Bowl with Lovie Smith. The goal is to win Super Bowls. Sure, he was 10-6, but he was a bad 10-6. He didn't make the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs and you're 10-6, you didn't do something right. You didn't win the correct 10 games. You need to win certain games, and he didn't win the games he needed to win. So regardless if he was 10-6, he didn't win the correct games. He had to go. He couldn't put together an offense to save his life. Sure, the special teams were great, and the defense was very good, but you have to win with 3 phases. And I wish I had done this show. This show is not yet a year old. We started during just before the NFL draft, so it was during the combine season when we started earlier this year. So I wasn't there doing the shows when Mark Trestman got hired, but I was actually, a friend brought it up yesterday after the game, or maybe during the end of the game. He posted on Facebook how recalling our story where I was saying that I thought they should have hired Bruce Arians because I felt that he was much more the cause of the success of the Indianapolis Colts than Chuck Pagano. And I think Chuck Pagano is a nice coach, and I think he's doing a good job, but the reason that team was firing on all cylinders was because Chuck Pagano was sick and Bruce Arians took the reins while Chuck Pagano was sick. and that team did really well. I said, Bruce Arians is the guy you want. He's an offensive-minded guy. He will turn this offense around, but he's also can coach up the defense as well. He's an NFL caliber head coach, and he's a quality guy. And he was one of the finalists for the Bears, but they ultimately chose a guy with no NFL head coach experience. And now look what Bruce Arians is doing in Arizona. He's got one full year under his belt, and halfway through another year, he's got the Arizona Cardinals with the best record in the NFL. And that's a lot of smoke and mirrors and Band-Aids, because that team doesn't have as much talent as a team with that record should have. So they're playing above their heads, and that's good coaching. You've got guys buying into your system and playing the system that you're telling them to play, and they're doing it. You're coaching them to the best of their ability. That team is going to be scary with that coaching staff when they finally start having free agent money to spend and being able to put their draft class together and get rookies in there that are more talent, because that team, if they have more talent, would be playing so much better. They have mediocre talent, and they've got an old quarterback who now is hurt, will probably out for the rest of the season, and they're still just plugging along. And that's what you're supposed to do as a head coach, as a quality head coach, is it doesn't matter who goes down. You've coached the guys to keep playing. That's the mark of a good head coach. This regime, they have good talent, and they still can't put together a game plan where they win. They have all their starters there, and they're not winning. So what makes you think that they're going to win when somebody gets hurt? That's just mind-boggling. You've got a defensive coordinator who can't even coach over. He can't even get his players to learn the system that they play in, as well as the opposing quarterback knows the system. He sees them twice a year. This team, 16 regular season games a year, and they don't know it as well as the opposing quarterback. That's just atrocious. As I said before, I wanted to give Mark Trestman every benefit of the doubt, and I can't see him coaching next year. I absolutely cannot. He doesn't deserve another chance. He's shown his true colors. You can't give. This team has talent, and you can't lose another year by giving Mark Trestman another year. You've got to bring in a legitimate head coach to coach this team, because he's already lost the players. And you're not going to go in there and dump everybody and rebuild again because you want to get players in there that respect Mark Trestman. You've got to just do it now and get rid of everybody and bring in a guy with some cojones. And I'm not opposed to them flat out firing the whole coaching staff right here and now. They should have done it going into the bye. But it's not unheard of to fire a coach in the middle of the season. Since 2000, these are the coaches that have been replaced mid-season. In 2000, the Redskins got rid of Norv Turner and brought in Terry Robisky. In 2000, the Lions got rid of Bobby Ross and brought in Gary Moeller. In 2000, the Cardinals got rid of Vince Tobin and brought in McGinnis. In 2000, Bruce Kozlik got fired, and they brought in Dick LeBeau. In 2001, the Vikings fired Denny Green and brought in Mike Tice. 2003, the Falcons fired Dan Reeves and brought in Wade Phillips. In 2004, the Dolphins got rid of Wani and brought in Jim Bates. In 2004, the Browns got rid of Butch Davis and brought in Terry Robisky. 2005, the Rams got rid of Mike Martz and brought in Joe Vitt. 2005, the Lions got rid of Mariucci and brought in Dick Duran. 2007, the Falcons got rid of Bobby Petrino and brought in Emmett Thomas. 2008, Rams got rid of Scott Lineman. 2008, the Raiders got rid of Lane Kiffin. 2008, the 49ers got rid of Mike Nolan. 2009, the Bills got rid of Dick Duran. 2010, the Vikings got rid of Brad Childress. 2010, the Vikings got rid of Wade Phillips. In 2010, the Broncos got rid of Josh McDaniels. 2010, the 49ers got rid of Mike Singletary. 2011, Jaguars got rid of Jack Del Rio. 2011, Dolphins got rid of Tony Sperano. And 2011, the Chiefs got rid of Todd Haley. So this is not unheard of to fire a coach mid-season. And if there was ever a reason that you fired a head coach, is this would be it. You've got a team that's already pretty much mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And they've given up on their coach. Their coaching system is just terrible. Their special teams is abysmal. The defense is abysmal. And the offense can't score points. There's mutiny in the locker room. Is why would you keep this guy on? Why? You're the Chicago Bears. Money shouldn't be an object for you. It's not like you're one of these teams that had just bought the team and you're still financing and you've got $1 billion tied up in investments and things like that. Is this team is owned free and clear. You owe no money onto it. You lease the field from the city. You don't pay on the field. This is a money-making team. The owners of the team are billionaires. Billions. Is who cares about the couple of $1 million you owe Mark Trestman? Just pay it out. Write a check. Bring in a real coach. Bring in a real coach to coach this team. Bring some toughness back. Bring this team back to life. And while we're at it, I want to talk about the special teams. I don't care that Chris Williams ran back that 101-yard touchdown in garbage time. He's awful. He is not an NFL caliber he's not a wide receiver. He's a terrible, but he's not an NFL caliber kick returner. He was brought in because they thought his speed could do something. And sure, he's fast, but guess what? He goes down with the slightest breeze. How many times has he brought it out past the 20 ever? We're more than halfway through the season, and how many times has he brought it past the 20? Not very many. And sure, he had this one in garbage time, and that's going to be the one blemish that the Packers are going to go into the locker room and watch game film, and the special teams is going to get chewed out because of that return. They were perfect pretty much in every phase and gave up one bad play, and they're going to get screamed at, and they're going to learn from it. The Bears could go play by play and just show how bad they stink, and then you have this one play, and I'm sure they're going to rally around this one play. Chris Williams doesn't belong in the NFL, and he shouldn't be a returner in the NFL. And don't get me wrong, I thought they should have got rid of Devin Hester too. I thought that was the right move because Devin Hester was a distraction. Devin Hester was making a lot of money to just be a kick returner. And you could say, well, look what he didn't do in Atlanta. Well, what's Atlanta doing right now? Atlanta's struggling on offense as well. Is because he is not an NFL caliber wide receiver. And you can't pay him that much money to be a kick returner, especially with the budget crunch that they have. So with that, what do the Bears do? Where do they go? You have fans that want to fire the whole coaching staff right here and now. You have fans that want to just tank the rest of the season so you can get a really good draft pick. And you've got fans that are just boycotting, talking about the team, watching the games. But the common denominator here is the fans are fed up, and they're resorting to things that are just irrational. This is a bad team, and drastic measures need to be taken. If Phil Emery wants to keep his job, he's going to have to do something drastic because they can't be complacent. They can't, because there's still a lot of football left to be played this season, and you can't just go in there and make yourself the laughingstock of the league, because Chicago fans will not forget that. You can't lose the next 7 games. And sure, the Vegas odds have the Bears as a 5-point favorite going into next week against the Vikings. Realistically, can they beat the Vikings? I don't know. I really don't know. Teddy Bridgewater's looking much better, and he's a mobile quarterback. Are they going to do the read option and just burn the Bears again? It's quite possible. And at this point, I'm in the camp of you have to fire Mark Trestman. He has not done what he's supposed to do. And if you go and watch every single bit of video after every loss this season, he says, we didn't play well enough. We need to go, we'll sit down and watch the tape and correct it. And what has he corrected? What has he corrected? I'm going to play you some audio here after the last, before the game. It was after they already lost once to Green Bay this season, before they played them the second time. And you're going to hear what you hear. And did he execute anything he said he was going to execute? And it's one thing, I didn't think they were going to beat the Packers, but you have to play competitively. You have to make them earn that win. You can't just go in there and roll over it and die.
We're completely focused on the Packers. We're not, creating hypotheticals on what's going to happen after this game. We know we got our work cut out for us this week. We're going up to Green Bay to play a very, very good football team, and our guys know that, and they're focused on that. We haven't created any turnovers. We haven't made the stops at the right time, but that's where we left off. And we've worked very hard over last week to see where we are with things, to clean up some of those things and mistakes that we've made, and get some people back as well. And we hope we can improve. We've seen that we can do it because it's shown up on tape during the course of our season, but not just on the defensive side of the ball, but in all three phases. We just haven't played consistently enough, and certainly not in the last couple of weeks. When you want to win in this league, is to prevent turnovers and to create them. To not do things during a game that can hurt you, like pre-snap penalties. Being a disciplined football team, playing a clean game. We're not looking at this thing, lightly, because we've had success the last couple times moving the football. The bottom line is, the last two times we haven't scored enough to win, and we were able to do that last year in Lambeau.
I mean, you heard it all right there yourself. You heard what he said they needed to do, and you saw what they actually did. So where does that disconnect happen? And that happens right with the coaching staff, is because they didn't do their job in preparation. Players have to play, but coaches have to coach. And if you don't put a game plan in there that's a winning game plan, is you can't win. You can't have miscommunication with your cornerbacks and your safeties, where one thinks they're playing cover 2 and one thinks they're playing single high safety, and have the quarterback recognize it, but not the defensive backs. Is you have to, if you see this is happening, you have to address this. So they didn't. They saw what the demolition they got in the first time against the Packers. Is why didn't you go back and watch the tape? Why didn't you correct these things? Why didn't you put in a better game plan? It's all fine and good if they're doing things. If your coach is not putting you in a position to win, then it is the coach's fault. If the coaches are putting in a system and you're just not making the plays, that's on the player. If your job is to cover a guy man and he burns you every time, that's your fault. But if you're the best option and then the coach doesn't put something in there to help you out until they can get a better option than you, then that is on the coaches. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And the issue is, at this point, is this is already a shipwreck of a season, and you have to steady the ship. That's all you can do right now. Is you don't want this to spiral out of control. You don't want to become the Lions of the last, other than the last couple of years, the previous decade of Lions. You don't want to be them. You don't want to be the Cleveland Browns. You don't want to be the Bungles or the 70s Buccaneers. You don't want to be these teams. You have to right this ship. And it's already a lost season, but you want to keep this lost season from turning into a joke. That's what you want to prevent. Just because you don't make the playoffs doesn't mean you have to be a joke. You want to make sure you're competitive in every game, because even if you're losing, but you're competitive, you're not going to lose this team. When you're losing and you're giving up 30 points at halftime, you're giving up 6 touchdowns to a guy at halftime, that's a joke. You're the laughing stock of the league. Every analyst out there is laughing at you. All your fans are are miserable. You have to turn this around. You don't want, as one former GM said, you don't want it to be a clown show. People are paying to come see the games, and players still need to practice hard and have reason to come to work. It's important to maintain some professionalism, especially on game day. You have to have people capable of running the team if you're going to make the move. Saying making the move of firing your head coach and bringing in somebody. So maybe Emery doesn't think he has somebody in there that could run this team and do a better job. Maybe that's why he's not firing Trestman. But regardless, is you need to bring in somebody that can actually do the job, and Mark Trestman is not that guy. So that's about it for the Chicago Bears. Is normally we like to have Lester Wilfong from Windy City Gridiron come on, and I talked to him yesterday, and the game ended late, and, so neither of us wanted to do the show, and we were both a little frustrated with what we saw, so to say the least. So, normally we have Lester on, but we'll have Lester again on next week, hopefully, and that's going to be it for Bears talk. I want to transition over to some hockey, and before we do that, I want to take a second to talk about our sponsor, is the Rockford IceHogs. Fresh off their 8th straight win and center Mark McNeil having a hat trick, luckily enough, on Pepsi Camouflage Hat Night, the Rockford IceHogs are back at home on Friday, November 14th to take on the Milwaukee Admirals. With tickets starting at just $8 and only 90 minutes from the city limits, it's a perfect outing for your family. Check out icehogs.com for more information. So as we talked about with Chris Block last time, it was the Blackhawks offense has been struggling. They got shut out by Anaheim. They barely squeaked by Ottawa. They couldn't come up with, even though they played well, they couldn't get any pucks to fall for in a loss to Toronto. Got blanked by Winnipeg, who's a team they should be beating. They finally lit it up against Montreal, letting Montreal up for 5. But then came back and got outplayed by Washington, losing 3-2. And before, on Sunday, that was the saving grace of Chicago, is the Bears get demolished, and Chicago wins 5-2 against San Jose. And the thing is that score was a little lopsided, but if you watch the game, I really feel San Jose outskated the Hawks. And with this offensive troubles is Coach Q did his infamous line changes. So his top line was Taves at center, Versteeg at left wing, Patrick Kane at right wing. Second line was Shaw at center, Brandon Saad at right, Bickle at left. Third line, Marcus Kruger at center, Marian Hossa in the right wing, and Ben Smith in the left wing. And the fourth line with Brad Richards' line is Jeremy Morin, Peter Regan, and Brad Richards. And they kept the defensive pairings same, except they moved to third pairing to be TVR and David Rundblad. So they switched up the lines, and they were able to light the lamp 5 times. The problem is that they won, and I really think Coach Q is going to think it's because of these line changes, but I don't think that was the reason that they were able to win. I don't think those line changes were anything. I think they're a little bit silly line changes, to be honest. I don't like putting Chris Versteeg on that top line. I mean, granted, you're gonna have to change up things a little bit because you've got Sharp out for a month, but I don't think this is the answer here. So some of it is, as we talked about with Chris Block, is that the offense is going to have to just find a rhythm, get some greasy goals, and sometimes getting goals makes the other goals fall. They've outshot their opponents, but they haven't been high percentage shots, so they're a little misleading. You could shoot it a ton of times, but if you're not getting high percentage shots, they're going to be less likely to fall. And sometimes it's luck. You get a lucky deflection. The 5-hole may open up a little wider than usual, or the goalie doesn't get his glove side up as fast as usual, or you get a ricochet somewhere. It ricochets off the pipe in rather than out. Sometimes it's a little bit of luck, but sometimes it's just like with baseball, is hitting is contagious. Sometimes scoring goals is contagious as well. If you get the lamp lit a couple times, then what happens is you get lucky breaks start going your way. You start crashing the net a little more. You start getting good things happen. Sometimes you have to create your own luck. And it's one thing to have a guy set up with net front presence, but it's also the other thing is to have guys continuously chasing rebounds. When those goalie give up rebounds, you've got to make them pay. And that's the thing where they're not doing is they're getting shots off. They're skating well for the most part. They're getting good goaltending from Corey Crawford, but they're not getting those greasy goals. They're not following up the rebounds. They're not getting the things that they need to do to be actual competitive for the Stanley Cup. And as it stands right now is, even though we're still only 15 games into this 82 game season, is we're still far enough along that you start getting a little nervous, because if the year after they won the Stanley Cup, if you remember, is they made the playoffs, but they really had to push at the end of the season to make it. And then they had a tough opening series, which they ended up losing in 7 games. And although everybody plays the same number of games, it's if you are at the point at the end of the season where you're really pressing to try to get enough wins to get into the playoffs, you're not going to have anything left going into the postseason. And that's what happened that season, and that's really what I worry about this season. I don't worry about them not making the playoffs. I worry about pressing at the end of the season to make sure that they get enough wins and having no extra gear to go to in the playoffs. So as it stands right now in the Central Division, they're 4th place. They're behind Nashville, St. Louis, and Winnipeg, and just ahead of Minnesota. I mean, granted, everybody's a little bit bunched up. I mean, 3 points separate first place and 4th place. But I mean, one more win and then they could be in 2nd place, granted. But still, that's not the place you want to be in if you're the Chicago Blackhawks. And if the playoffs were to start today, they wouldn't even make in the playoffs. The wild cards would be the Los Angeles Kings and the San Jose Sharks, who they beat last night. They would be out by 1 point. They've really got to start pushing, and they've really got to start creating their own luck. And on that same note is, when you have injuries, you're going to have to start looking at the younger guys to come up and start performing. And they've got some guys on their roster that they've been playing, and especially on the defensive side, you've got TVR, who's playing really well, especially for a rookie coming out of college. He's playing really well, and he's really established himself as the 5th defenseman. I mean, he's clearly not that 6th guy, because they've been alternating Michael Roosevelt and David Rundblad. TVR's been playing every single game. Like I said, I'm going to transition there's a lot of talent in Rockford right now, and Rockford is playing really great. You have to start looking at some of these guys for the future, especially considering that starting next year, the Taves and Kane contracts are going to kick in, and you're going to have to start really counting pennies to be able to get under the salary cap, because you're going to have the huge contract of Patrick Kane, you're going to have the huge contract of Jonathan Taves, you're going to have the huge contract of Corey Crawford and Marian Hossa and Patrick Sharp. So you're going to need these younger guys that are on rookie deals to even out the money. So I went down to Rockford the other night to watch the IceHogs play, and we saw them win their 8th straight game. And you have center Mark McNeil, who's just been on fire. That whole line has been on fire. And Mark McNeil, the center, got a hat trick. Philip Deneau looked great. These are names that you're going to see start to come up. Left winger Brandon Mashinter, he's another name that you're going to start seeing. Joakim Nordstrom, who you saw last year, didn't get a lot of playing time. He's playing very well in Rockford. Eventually, you're going to see Teuvo Teravainen. He's struggling a little bit right now, but he's going to be a guy that you see more and more. But where we really see the logjam is, and it's part of the reason why I'm more and more comfortable with them moving some of the aging veterans on defense that are making a lot of money, is there's a big bottleneck of good defensemen. In Rockford, you've got 8 defensemen that are all worthy of playing time. And then you've got guys that are that are clearly better than others. One guy who I really thought not easily, but I feel like he deserved a chance to play with the bigs this year was Klas Dahlbeck. And I spoke to him a little bit after the IceHogs win, so let's play that for you right now.
So you had a really great training camp with the Blackhawks. Were you surprised that they sent you back down to Rockford?
I knew it was going to be a tough competition, and there were a lot of demon up there. So I was happy with my training camp, but just wasn't any spots open.
And so this is your third year. Are you looking with like Johnny Oduya on a final year of his contract, and Michael Roosevelt being 36, and David Rundblad having a little bit of a tough time in getting in Coach Q's doghouse? Do you expect to be brought up at some point in the season?
I'm just going to try to play good, and hopefully that will earn me a chance sometime during the season.
And so, knowing that you're one of the guys that's going to eventually come up, is what do you do in Rockford to keep yourself motivated and working hard, and what kind of skills are you trying to work on while you're here?
It was a good experience getting to play a couple of games during training camp. I got to play 3 games, and just to see a little bit what it takes to play on that kind of level. And I'm just trying to work hard here every day and prepare myself, so I'll be in best shape possible when I get my chance.
Is there anything specific that you're working on that you think you need to shore up in your game to be a solid first 2 pairings guy?
I don't know. I just got to try to be a influence everywhere out there in the D zone, and just make good plays. And I don't know. It's tough to mention one thing, but I'm just trying to work on my overall game. The game up there is so skilled and so fast, so it's just going to be an overall good player.
What kind of things did you learn from one of the top defensemen, Duncan Keith, and a seasoned pro like Nick Jalmerson? What did you learn from them being up there?
Yeah, just to be able to see them work and train hard every day, and see the details that they're working on in every practice. And especially, as you mentioned, Nick Jalmerson here for me is kind of a similar player, and yeah, just take some details that he's doing very good out there, making his stick has his influence on the puck all the time, and the way he's blocking shots and just playing around his own net. It's kind of impressive.
So Klas is a really great guy, and he's a really hard-working guy, and you're gonna see him come up, and I would not be surprised to see him come up by the end of the year. And if the Hawks want to make a move, they might have to move a guy like a Johnny Oduya, and he's got the playoff presence, and he's really great as a partner with Nick Jalmerson, but we all know he's not going to be with the team next year. So if they do move him, TVR is going to have enough games played where maybe you move TVR up to be on the same line or the same pairing with Jalmerson, and then you bring in Roosevelt to play at the third pairing with a guy like Klas Dahlbeck. There's Adam Clendenning, who's a really good offensive defenseman. You've got Stephen Johns and Victor Svedberg. These are all options down in Rockford. There's so much defenseman talent down there that eventually they're going to have to work themselves up and play. And that's something you're going to really want to look for. And I don't be shocked if you see Klas Dahlbeck playing in the NHL, because clearly Coach Q isn't confident in David Rundblad. Michael Roosevelt's 36 years old. How many more years does he realistically have left? Johnny Oduya makes too much money to be able to keep him. So you're going to have to start bringing in these younger guys, and they did so already with TVR. And I think that TVR, part of the reason that he was the one that won the opening spot over an Adam Clendenning or Klas Dahlbeck was because with the Kevin Hayes situation over the summer, where Kevin Hayes played 4 years in college and didn't want to play for the Blackhawks because he felt he would be stuck in Rockford for a long time. He wanted a place where he could come up right away and start playing. And that was the perception along the way, that the Blackhawks, if you are a college guy that you are looking to transition to the pros is you're going to have to play a number of years in college or in the minors in the AHL because they don't have room at the majors for you yet. So that's a bad perception. So part of that was, I think, a political one where Trevor Van Riemsdyk played at college and then got bumped over some of the guys that were ahead of him to be able to go up and show, hey, look, if you are a college guy and you play well enough, you'll make the squad. And that's what they did. And don't get me wrong, his TVR I think has played well, but I think he's necessarily better than a Klas Dahlbeck or an Adam Clendenning? No. I just think it was a little bit of a toss-up, and that was, if it's a good PR move for the younger guys, then why not do that as well? So that's going to be it for right now. I'm probably going to do another show later in the week talking Bulls. I want to keep this show to a minimum length, and I wanted to make sure I got the Rockford interviews and some of that stuff, and talk about the Bears. And if you're a fan of the show, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Swirsky Sports, and facebook.com/Swirsky Sports. If you listen to us on iTunes or Stitcher, make sure you give us some ratings and feedback. You guys aren't doing that, and even though I can see that there's a lot of people listening to the show, you're not doing that, and that makes us look like we're not getting listened to. And if you want to listen to us on YouTube, I've been posting the shows on YouTube as well, and you can also go to our website at www.swirskysports.com, and that's got all the ways to get a hold of us. So that's going to do it for right now, and we want to say thanks to the Rockford IceHogs for having us there on Saturday night to see the game. And until next time, thanks for listening, and bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like... Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go Bears.